Welcome to a Legalbytes presentation of the Karen Reed murder trial. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel we make sense of the law one bite at a time. If you want more on the background of the Karen Reed case, check out our video on it linked in the description below. But otherwise, you be the jury. Did Karen Reed murder her Boston PD boyfriend John O'Keefe, or is she being framed by local police who Reed says are actually responsible for O'Keefe's death? Tell us what you think. But in the process, the one rule is don't be a dingus. Remember, everyone comes from their own perspective and opinion, and everyone comes to conclusions at their own pace. Agree or disagree, but always respectfully. Okay, let's get into it. All right, you guys, welcome back. I hope you had a nice break. We got, that was like a nice hour plus break. That was good. And especially considering the fact that we started late. I am actually quite proud of that. So, alrighty, we have the afternoon session. Now we will be continuing back up with Miss Allison McCabe. I believe we're going to be starting her cross-examination. So we're just a few minutes behind. I'm sure we'll get caught up right on soon, as per usual. And let me know if there are any questions in the chat. I'll save them. I'll answer them as soon as possible. I apologize if there are any earlier. Oh, also, I did notice this as soon as we started the stream. I can't pull it up on, I can't pull it up on StreamYard at the moment. However, it's not letting me, but I will let you know that Just Because gifted 5 Legalbytes memberships earlier. So thank you so much, Just Because. Very kind and generous of you. I love seeing gifted memberships in this chat. So let's see. Knight, Sherry Zabar, Absolute Shambles, Shaz Defunk, Melanie R's. You have all been gifted memberships by Just Because. So welcome or welcome back to Bike Club. Very happy to see you guys here. And Indy Bear. Indy. She's on the floor. She's not. She'll join us soon. She'll join us when she joins us. Same thing with the cats. All right, folks, let's get to it, shall we?
And I'll remind you, you're still under oath.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Oh, no, we're continuing. Never mind.
Now, Ms. McCabe, if I could take you back just to a little bit from where we had left off. When you arrived at the residence at 34 Fairview Road, you pulled into the driveway, is that correct?
I believe so.
And obviously, on that date, you were familiar with the types of vehicles that your parents drove?
Yes.
And did you see any of your parents' vehicles at the home when you pulled in and parked in the driveway?
No.
And when you got to the house at any point, did you exit the car or go inside the house?
No.
So you texted him that you were there, and you stayed in the car, and he came out.
Yes.
And when Colin came out to the car, what, if any, observations did you make of him in regards to his sobriety, as far as what, if any, observations did you make in respect to that?
Normal.
Didn't seem overly intoxicated to you?
No.
And as far as his face or features, or from whatever you could see, what, if any, injuries did you observe on Colin when he came out?
None.
And how would you describe his demeanor when he came out and he got into the car?
Normal.
Now, during the course, you drove from the Fairview home to Colin's house, is that right?
Yes.
And where was Colin living at that point?
I don't know the address, but his new house, not the one where he was neighbors with John, the newer house.
And if you could, just generally speaking, where was that in relation to the town of Canton? What was it?
It's in the center of town, close to the library.
And do you recall, or do you know what type of residence that is?
Yes, it's like condos. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah. Townhouses.
As far as your drive from the residence in Fairview to Colin's house, did you make any stops along the way?
No.
About how long a drive is it from Fairview to Colin's new house?
7 minutes, 5 minutes.
And when you arrived there, what did you observe Colin do?
Got out of the car, went inside, got the key, locked it, went inside.
And is that something as far as did you wait for him to get inside?
Yes.
And why was it?
I always wait for him because it's like how he has to open the first door to get inside. So I usually just wait for everyone to get inside.
And during the car ride from Fairview to Colin's house, do you recall anything specific about, did you have a conversation with him?
Probably. I don't remember what we were talking about.
And then following that, where did you go?
I believe home.
And when you got home, were either of your parents home at that point?
No,
Do you know about what time it was that you got?
not exactly. I would estimate a little bit before 12:30, around that time.
And at any point in time over the rest of the course of that evening, did you see your parents? Did you talk to your parents or anything like that?
I know I talked to my dad on the phone when we found the dog. Other than that, no.
And so after your return home, when you went to bed or you went to sleep, were your parents home at that point?
No.
About how much time was it between the time when you got home, around 12:30 or so, and when you went to sleep?
Not long. I don't know.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, at some point you woke up, correct?
Yes.
And were your parents home at that point?
Yes.
And were both of your parents home at that point?
Yes.
Do you know about what time it was that you woke up the next day?
No, I do not.
Now, Ms. McCabe, at some point in August of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with some troopers from the state police?
Yes, I believe I'm not sure what time, but on a Zoom.
And was that one trooper or more than one trooper or something?
I believe 2. I'm not sure.
Can you recall any of the names of any of those troopers?
Yuri maybe was one of them. I'm not sure.
Buchanan.
I'm sorry, just gonna wait for that. And now, ma'am, following that meeting that you had with the troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide to them from your phone?
Text messages with Colin, maybe pictures. I don't know. Definitely the text messages.
And before we get to that, just as far as your phone, what kind of phone did you have at that time?
I believe an iPhone 14 Pro Max, maybe.
And I should have been more specific as far as the time, but the iPhone you're talking about as far as the Pro Max, was that in January of 2022
Oh, I'm sorry.
or in August of 2022?
That was in August.
And between January of 2022 and August of 2023, did you have the same phone throughout that time period?
I'm not sure. I believe I upgraded. Yeah.
And when you upgraded your phone, what, if any, data sort of carried over from the old phone to the new phone?
Everything.
So as far as chats or text messages or phone contacts, things like that, all of that transferred from one phone to the new phone?
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
And so first, ma'am, I'm going to show you a two-page document. Just ask you to take a look at it and we'll go.
Okay.
And do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that?
This is from my phone, my text messages.
And the second page, what is that?
Colin's contact information.
Are those screenshots that you took from your phone and provided to the troopers in August of 2023?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Call Malta seek to introduce the event as.
Objection, I'd ask to be heard.
Okay, come on up and bring that.
Time to time travel.
Jury is exited the courtroom. Please be seated.
Your Honor, I could excuse for 1 second just to pick up something. It's up right in the hallway.
Okay.
Just because, thanks for the super
Briefly
chat.
explain to the witness what's occurring.
Yes, I just need Miss Giannetti back.
Sorry.
Okay. So thank you. And the next two, if they would be marked separately, please.
Were they fireball screenshots? That's a good one. That's a good one, just because.
Thank you. All right, the lawyers are going to get to ask you a few questions now before we go any further in front of the jury.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so jury
So,
is not in the
um,
room.
Mr. Lally, you can take the exhibits back and you can question this witness, and then Ms. Giannetti can cross-examine.
May I approach with?
Yes.
Alderman? So, Ms. McCabe, with reference to the two screenshots that we were just talking about before the jury left the room, those are screenshots that you took from your own phone, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the communications contained therein, is it your memory that those are communications that you had with Colin Albert?
Why don't you ask her what they are, non-leading?
Those
Ooh, that's the first leading.
screenshots as far as the
That's the first interruption by Judge Canone on leading, which, you know, all of these what if any's are him basically trying to make sure that he doesn't get hit with a leading objection. So anyway, that I just thought that was very, very interesting.
communications. What are they? When were they done?
At a later date. Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
So I'm asking as far as the actual content of the conversations, when did those conversations occur?
January 28th.
And by the way, so this, just to clarify this, Doctor Who 8675309, good question. I must have missed something. Why is the jury not in the room for testimony? So they are going over these screenshots to determine whether or not they can be admitted into evidence. So they're asking her a bunch of questions about them and about just foundational kind of stuff. So they have to do that outside the presence of the jury before they can decide whether or not the jury can even see them.
And you were a participant in those conversations?
Yes.
And as far as the content of those conversations, is it your memory that the content reflected there is accurate as to what the content of the conversations were between yourself and Colin Albert the evening of the 28th into the 29th?
Yes.
And Colin Albert was somebody that you were familiar with, correct?
Yes.
And beyond what's contained within these screenshots, you had other text communications with Colin Albert using the same contact information.
Correct.
And how is it that you knew or were aware that the person or the contact that you were talking to was Colin Albert?
Because it's his phone.
With reference to that contact you had in your phone for Colin Albert, had you called that number before?
Yes.
When you called the number, who answered?
Colin.
And when you had texted Colin on prior occasions using that contact information. Did you have any, you have a text communication? Did you have any subsequent conversation in relation to the content of those text communications?
Sorry, can you rephrase that?
And I'm not just asking specifically about these. What I'm saying is you had contact information in your phone for calling out.
Yes.
And on any of those prior occasions when you had texted, that contact information you put in as Colin Albert into your phone. And just to be clear, you were the one who input that number as Colin Albert in your phone.
Yes.
And so on this or any prior occasions when you had contacted via text, that contact of Colin Albert in your phone, following those text communications, did you have any conversation with Colin Albert related to the content of those communications?
She doesn't understand.
Sorry,
what
I'm
he's
Do you
asking.
understand the question?
No,
You have to make
Sorry.
these simpler. Let's try and get through this for dear Mr. Allen.
At some point during the course of your, how long had you had Colin's contact information in your phone?
For a while, years.
And over the course of those years, had you had conversations related to content in text in person?
Oh, yes.
And as far as the content that you had texted to that number you associated or input as Colin Albert, was Colin Albert aware of the content of those text communications?
Oh, correct. Yeah.
And within those specific screenshot of the text communications from that evening, as far as your recollection of that particular evening, are the times that are associated with those accurate as far as you remember?
Yes.
And did you do anything to alter the times that are associated with those text communications prior to taking the screenshot and giving it to the state police?
No.
Now turning to the other two screenshots that you took, those are photographs, correct?
Did I take them?
I'm just asking what they are.
Oh, both pictures of Colin. One's with my aunt. The other's just him and some other people blocked off.
And do you know when and where those were taken?
Yes, they were taken at the Albert's house. One of their sons were coming home from the Marines, so it was like a welcome home party.
And when was that in relation to the evening of January 28th, 29th?
A few weeks after.
And that sort of coming home celebration for your cousin who was coming home from the Marines, were you there for that?
Yes.
And so as far as your observation of those photographs is what's depicted of Colin Albert, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what he looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Ron. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How long have you had an iPhone? I'm not talking about your current iPhone, but just iPhones in general.
For years.
More than 5 years?
Yes.
And how old are you now?
I'm 20.
20. And when did you get your first iPhone, if you remember?
I don't remember.
12, 13?
Yeah, around middle schoolish.
Maybe 7 or 8 years. Is that a decent estimate?
Yes.
And in those 7 or 8 years, you have learned how to operate an iPhone, the various features that they have and the apps that you can download and use, correct?
Correct.
And your current iPhone has a number of apps on it, correct?
Correct.
With regard to the text message app, you'll agree with me that that is a green icon with a white sort of speech bubble in the middle of it.
Yes, I believe.
And you know that when you click on that, it gives you a list of the text messages that you're exchanging with people, the various threads, correct?
Correct.
You know that if you click on a thread, it opens up the individual text messages that you've sent and received to that particular person, correct?
Correct.
And you know that if you take your finger or your thumb and you hold it on one particular text that's either sent to you or from you, you can do things with that individual text, correct?
Correct.
You can
do you mean?
forward it to somebody else, right?
Correct, I believe.
In the context of a conversation, you can just reply to that one particular text message, right?
Correct.
And if you do that, rather than hit the arrow button where you forward or reply, On the left side of the screen, there's a trash can, correct?
I'm not sure.
You know that you can delete a text from a thread, correct?
Correct.
All right. And it's a trash can that
Oh.
you click on, right?
Correct.
I'm not trying to trick you.
No, I was confused. Sorry.
No, I understand. I don't mean to confuse you. So you know that if you click on the trash can, it gives you an option to either cancel or to delete the message, correct?
Correct.
And what happens if you delete the message?
It's deleted off the phone.
Okay, so it's gone from that thread, correct?
Correct.
And somebody looking at a screenshot that you take after you've deleted that message, it wouldn't be evident that that message was ever there, correct?
Correct.
Now, you testified at a hearing in Boston on August 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was, and we're not with a jury present, that was a federal grand jury, correct?
Correct.
And you had, by that point, by August of 2023, you no longer had the phone that you originally had on January 29th of 22, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
You had gotten a new phone in December of 2022, correct?
Okay, I'm not sure what time, but
Does that?
yeah, I got a new
Right.
phone. I believe I got a new phone.
But, and actually, the timing is not that important, just that it was before that grand jury appearance.
Okay, yes.
All right. And what did you do with the old phone when you got the new phone?
Transfer through iCloud, everything transfers over.
Okay, but I'm actually talking about the hardware itself.
Oh, what did I do?
iPhone.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Not the data on the phone. I understand that you've testified that you transferred that to the new phone, but the actual physical phone itself, where did that go when you got the new phone?
I'm not sure.
Would that have been traded in?
Possibly.
You don't have it now, correct?
I don't think, no.
And as of August of 2023, you didn't have it either, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that no investigator from this case ever asked you for that phone that you had on January 29th?
Correct.
They
Right, so,
never-
Ms. Gianetti, can we just focus on the voir dire? All that you're doing, you can cross-examine her with, but on the voir dire of this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd just like to get the jurors back in.
No, I understand, Your honor. I understand. I was trying to lay a foundation, but maybe it's not necessary. So with regard to
If you need to do it, go ahead. I'm just trying to.
I want to accommodate the court, Your Honor. With regard to the messages that are in a given thread, right? We've talked about the fact that you are aware that you can reply to them, an individual message, forward or delete one, correct?
Correct.
You're also aware that it is possible to change the timestamp on any individual message, correct?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You go to settings and you go to general and you go to date and time. First of all, you can change the time zone of the message. Do you have your iPhone with you right now?
Not on me.
Not on. And in addition to being able to change the time zone, you actually can change the hour and minute to whatever you want it to be. Were you aware of that?
No.
With regard to photos on your phone, you are aware that you can change the date and time of any photo in your photo app, correct?
Nope.
There is a little, when you go to your iPhone, there's a little I for information. And all you need to do is, I think it's for info or information. All you need to do is click on that and you get a pop-up from the bottom that gives you the choice to alter the date and time. Did you know that?
No.
Next to that date and time is the word adjust. And that's all you have to click on. And you can change the time from 12:10 a.m. or you can change it from 12:40 a.m. to 12:10 a.m. or you can change it from 1:45 to 12:10 a.m. And it's that easy.
Yep. Now I know. I didn't know that. I didn't do that.
If I may have a moment.
Okay.
That's it for the voir dire.
Okay. So I'm going to allow this testimony, and your argument goes to the weight of the evidence, not its admissibility. But I did, under Commonwealth versus Tracci, want to give you your voir dire. Okay. All right. So let's bring the jurors back in.
Yes, P-U-R-D-Y. Your Honor, before the jurors come back in, may I just retrieve the exhibits?
Yes, but I'd like to see counsel at sidebar while they're coming in.
Okay. Let me get some questions here to try to make sure that we stay on top of these. Jerry Roth, can you name a slower trial? This legit seems like it's taking forever and the schedule isn't helping it. I agree. I definitely agree. Divine and Hale with Donna Clifford she is Colin's cousin, correct? Yes. They're not blood related, but so think of it this way. Caitlin and Brian Albert Jr. are siblings. They're sort of that center spoke where their parents are Nicole and one second. Their parents are Nicole and Brian Albert. So those two kids, those two parents. There's more kids in the family, but that's who we've seen so far. So Nicole Albert has the sister Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe's married to Matt McCabe. Matt and Jen McCabe have a daughter, Allison McCabe. So that's how she's related to the family. Then on the other side, on the Albert side of this, then Brian Albert's brother is Christopher Albert. He's married to Julie Albert. They have a son named Colin Albert. So that's how those four cousins are related. Dionysia Jaclo. Legalbytes, will you recap day 11 and 12 together? Much needed. Okay, so day 11 recap is almost ready. It's almost finished. It'll be out like at the latest, it'll be like right after this stream ends that it'll be out. Day 12 is going to come out at some point tomorrow. Ideally in the morning, but hey, we're getting these out as soon as possible. So I apologize for the delay, but yes, there will be recaps for every single day. Walden Emerson became a YouTube member. Welcome to Bite Club. Very happy to have you here. I hope you can join us for our members only live stream on Saturday, 10 a.m. East Coast time. Love to have you. Okay, let's continue. Okay. I think jury's coming back in, perhaps. Yep, that's why everybody's standing.
Profusely. I just need one more mission. Please be seated.
I went too far.
Court is back in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, I apologize profusely. I just need one more minute. I'm so sorry.
Oh, he needs another sidebar. Okay. Time travel again. We're going to get caught up pretty soon.
And Mr. Lally, I have an instruction to give if you're going to put in that screenshot.
Yes.
Okay. Jurors, remember, I've told you this before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must find first that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent the communication was in fact either Colin Albert or Ms. Allie McCabe. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that Ms. McCabe or Mr. Albert was the person who authored or created or transmitted the electronic communication, then you cannot consider that communication in your deliberations. So with that, Mr. Lally?
Thank you. And Your Honor, the first two pages that's been marked AA, Commonwealth would seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Okay, those may be admitted.
And also, pesky pirouette. Anyone know who Colin Albert lived with at the time J.O. was unaliving? Sorry. Oh,
Yes.
they're doing another sidebar? Okay. Okay. Anyway, yes, he lived with Christopher
And
and
Your Honor, if I may just approach,
Julie.
return it to the witness.
Sure.
He lived with Christopher and Julie Albert. Remember, there was that testimony about when Colin got
Now,
home
Ms.
that night.
McCabe, with reference,
And before we get into the questioning, sorry, I should have paused it before. But yeah, so Colin was I guess 17 years old at the time. I had originally said 18 years old. He was 17 years old at the time that all of this went down. So he was still in high school, and yes, living with Christopher and Julie Albert. And Divine Inhale with Donna Clifford question: could Colin go back after he was dropped off back to 34 Fairview Road? I mean, probably. I suppose. I mean, that could potentially contradict the testimony of Christopher and Julie Albert of, when he came home and then he went to bed and all that kind of thing. Potentially. I mean, or he snuck out undetected. Okay, let's continue.
before we get into that, you had an iPhone at the time of January 26th, is that correct?
Correct.
And with respect to your friend Colin Alberts, as far as his contact information within your phone, who entered that in your phone?
I did.
And prior to that date of January 28th into the 29th, 2022, had you had phone conversations where you would sort of press the button to call that number and it rang, correct?
Correct.
And who, if anyone, answered the phone when you contacted that phone number in your phone?
Colin.
Now, with reference to Colin and the contact in your phone, had you had prior text communications with Colin using that contact that you put in?
Correct.
And outside of those text communications that you had, did you have sort of physical in-person conversations with Colin in regard to content that was within text messages you have with that content?
Yes, I assume so.
And specifically on that date of January 28th and the 29th, when you arrived at the home on Fairview Road, you texted Colin that you were there?
Yes.
And after you texted him that, what, if anything, happened after that?
He responded saying, okay. And then he came out to the car.
And Your Honor, if I may, with the court's permission, just publish the text communication to the jury on the screen.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down a bit. Now, what's up on the screen, Ms. McCabe, is that what you have before you as the exhibit?
Yes.
And looking at, there's sort of one side has text and one side has a blue bubble, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you know who is communicating with who as far as the sort of plain text outside of the bubble?
Colin and I? Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
What I'm asking is, who's the blue bubble?
Oh, sorry. I'm the blue bubble and he is the gray whitish bubble.
Also, yeah, I know that some folks in the chat were talking about this, but I do agree that it's a little iffy on actually admitting these screenshots because there's no metadata to back it up. There's no way to verify if this information on these screenshots is actually correct, or if anything has been deleted. That would be verified through something like metadata, through a Cellbrite extraction from the phone. So, the fact that this is being done is a little bit funky. I don't like that the prosecution did not go through some kind of actual Cellbrite phone extraction for this information from her. I mean, because she's called by the prosecution. She's prosecution friendly. Why couldn't they have gotten this information like with the actual metadata? I just, I don't like this. I don't like that the prosecution is being allowed to bring this in.
And from sort of the top of what's depicted on the screen, you read the text that you received and the time that you received.
Yes. 11:54. And then I responded at 11:55.
And what did Colin say at 11:50?
You can get me now if easier.
And what did you
okay, I am driving people home now.
And what did Colin respond to that, and what time did he respond?
He responded, word, get me after.
And if someone could scroll down just a bit. And following the getting after, what if any response did you provide?
KK, okay, and here,
And here that you texted, what time does that read on the screenshot?
12:10 a.m.
And what if anything did Colin respond to your text?
He responded at the same time saying, okay.
I'm assuming you can take that. May I approach this to retrieve, John?
Yes.
Oops. Do you need that? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So the next two pages, two separate pages, contain photographs, is that correct?
Yes,
And you recognize what's depicted in those photographs that I've just placed before you?
yes.
What do you recognize those to be?
It's Colin. Is that what you're asking?
Well, let me ask you more specifically.
Okay.
So, were these also screenshots that you provided to troopers of the state police in August of 2020?
Yes, I believe so.
What's in regard to those two photographs, do you know when and where those photographs were taken?
They were taken February 11th at the Alberts, Nicole and Brian's house.
Objection. Move to strike.
No, I'm going to let her testify when they were taken.
And so February 11th of what year, ma'am?
2022.
So a few weeks after January 28th, 29th, correct?
Yes,
And were you present at the Alberts house on the evening of February 11th when they were taken?
yes.
And what was the purpose of yourself and or Colin or anybody being over the Alberts house on that day?
One of Nicole and Brian's sons were coming home from their Marines, so there was like a welcome home party with family and friends.
And that is your cousin Jack, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as what's contained in those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal as far as your memory of what Colin looked like on February 11th?
Correct.
And Your Honor, may I approach again?
Yes.
Almost seek to introduce in a minute the next two exhibits.
Again, subject to our discussion.
Sure. Okay. Yes, those are clear.
And then just returning those to you. And first, I would direct your attention to what's been now marked as Exhibit 82. Ms. Gilman, with the court's permission, may I publish those to the juries? At this time
Yes.
as well? Your Honor, may I just have a moment?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just enlarge that a bit. And do you recognize what's now up on the screen is what you have before you as Exhibit 82?
Yes.
And if you could just describe to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this photograph, who's taken.
Colin and my auntie Coco.
And your auntie Coco is also Nicole Albert, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yes, Nicole.
And if I could direct your attention to the next exhibit for you, Exhibit 83. And then you could pull that up on the screen. And Ms. Gilman, if you could allow. And again, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as Exhibit 83?
Yes,
This is the same evening, is that correct?
correct.
You know where in the house this photograph was taken?
I believe they call it their library. Maybe it's the room in the back.
And as far as what's contained in this photograph in reference to your friend Colin Albert, as far as his face, his arms, his hands, is that fair and accurate portrayal of what he looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, you can take it. I may approach one more time just
Yes.
to retrieve.
Thank you.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Gianetti?
Thank you.
Now we're on cross-examination.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ms. McCabe, you have known Colin Albert your whole life, correct?
Correct.
Your mother is Jennifer McCabe.
Correct.
His mother is Julie Albert,
Correct.
and her maiden name was Julie Daniels.
Correct.
Your mother, Jennifer, grew up together with his mother, Julie, correct?
Correct.
You and Colin are extremely close, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you would consider Colin Albert to be one of your best friends in the world, correct?
Yes, he's one of my best friends.
Now, you claim that you took a screenshot of a text conversation that you had with Colin Albert on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Those were the screenshots that were just shown to this jury this afternoon, correct?
Correct.
And you claim that the information on that screenshot actually existed on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell your mother, Jennifer McCabe, that you had that text conversation with Colin Albert anytime after January 29th of 2022?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you give to your mother, Jennifer McCabe, a screenshot of that text message conversation?
Objection.
Sustained.
It's fair to say that on January 29th, 30th, 31st, you did not turn over that screenshot to any law enforcement official, correct, of 2022?
No, I was never asked.
No investigator from this case ever asked you for copies or a copy of that screenshot of that text message conversation on January 29th, 30th, or 31st, correct?
Correct.
They also did not ask you for a copy of that screenshot through the whole month of February, correct?
Correct.
In fact, all of 2022, no investigator ever approached you to say, can I have a copy of that screenshot, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to that, you never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of a screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert, correct?
No, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time,
Okay.
I believe, because Colin was not at the house and wasn't introduced as being there until later.
So your testimony today is that at no time in the year 2022 did you consider it relevant at all that you had this screenshot of this text conversation, correct?
Correct.
Leaving that screenshot aside, but actually before I leave that topic, you didn't turn over that screenshot of a text message until sometime during the summer of 2023, correct?
Correct.
About a year and a half or more after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes, when I was asked.
And by that,
I want to know when she took the screenshot. Like, because did she take it right after the event or did she take it right before she sent it? You know what I mean?
time, the summer of 2023, you had already switched phones, correct?
Yes, I
In
believe.
other words, the iPhone that you had on January 29th of 2022, you no longer have possession of that physical phone, correct?
Correct.
You had a new iPhone, correct?
Correct.
And you say that you transferred over the data from the old phone to the new phone, correct?
Correct.
When did you take that screenshot that was displayed?
Hey,
to the jury?
I wanted to know.
I don't remember.
Was
Oh,
it before or after you got rid of your old phone?
I don't remember.
So we don't know if that screenshot was from your phone that you got in December of 2022, or if it was from the phone that you had back in January of 2022, correct?
Correct.
That phone that you got in December of 2022, it's now May of 2024. Do you still have that same phone?
The phone, my old phone? Is that
No, my question was,
The-
and again, I'm not trying to trick you in any way here. The phone that you got in December of 2022, the new phone at that time, is that the phone, your current phone?
correct?
Now, before you got rid of the old phone and got the new one, did any law enforcement official, prior to that December of 2022 time period, or investigator from this case ever ask to examine your physical phone itself?
No,
Did they ever say to you, we would like to do what's called an extraction on your phone?
no,
And you never gave that phone at any point to any law enforcement official before you got rid of it, correct?
correct.
And the first time that you mentioned that text conversation outside your family was August 3rd of 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was at a proceeding in Boston, correct?
Correct.
Where neither Mr. Lally or Ms. McLaughlin agree with it.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, move along, Mr. Yannetti.
Yes. That proceeding in August of 2023 was less than a year ago, correct? We're in May of 2024?
Correct.
And that was a long time after John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
And that August of 2023, when you're revealing that text exchange, that was over a year and a half after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And leaving aside the screenshot, as of August 3rd of 2023, no investigator from this case, no state police trooper or anybody from the DA's office had ever interviewed you, right? Prior to August of 2023?
I talked to the state troopers, but I don't know if that was before or after.
That was on August 25th of 2023, which is about 3 weeks after your testimony in the other proceeding. Does that refresh your memory?
Yes, then after.
And
Yeah,
at that point in time, on August 25th of 2023, you'll agree with me that you were not interviewed at a police station or a state police barracks, correct?
correct.
Or the DA's office, correct?
Correct.
You were interviewed by Zoom, correct?
Correct.
And you were not alone at that time in your home, correct?
I'm not sure.
Your mother, Jennifer McCabe, was present, correct?
Okay.
And she was monitoring what was going on in that interview, correct?
Objection.
Was that true?
I don't recall.
Okay. In any case, that too was over a year and a half after January 29th, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, I'd like to ask you some questions about, oh, by the way, you've had an iPhone since you were 12 or 13 years old.
Correct.
And you're now how old?
20.
So 7 or 8 years would be a good estimate as to how long you've worked with iPhones?
Correct.
And obviously you know how an iPhone works, correct?
Correct.
You know how to reply and comment on text messages, correct?
Correct.
And you know that there's a lot of tools open to you to comment on text messages, correct?
Correct.
You can reply to a text using an icon or an emoji, right? To like or dislike something that somebody else said.
Correct.
You can laugh at it, you can love it, you can like it, correct?
Objection.
Right?
Correct.
And they make it pretty easy, right? All you need to do is put your finger or your thumb on a specific message and and hold it down and options appear, correct?
Correct.
And that's where you get the thumbs up, the thumbs down, the ha-ha, exclamation points, question mark, etc.
Correct.
And you also have other options, which is down the bottom, there's a kind of a curved arrow where if you click on that, you can forward the message or reply to a specific message, correct?
Correct.
And on the left, there's a trash can, right?
Correct.
And what happens when you click on the trash can?
It will delete the message from your phone.
And it's your testimony that with regard to the screenshot that we saw, there are no deleted messages in that conversation, correct?
Yes.
However, you would agree, as you've already testified, that if a message had been deleted from a screenshot, we'd never know, right?
True.
You're also familiar with the apps that are on iPhones, correct?
Correct.
You have a number of apps on your iPhone, right?
Correct.
There might be 12 or 15, I haven't counted, 12 or 15 maybe on your home screen, right?
Correct.
And if you swipe to the left, you get another new population of 12 or 15.
Correct.
Not bad for an old guy.
Yeah.
You use apps like Instagram.
Correct.
Snapchat is a popular app.
Correct.
And probably to your detriment, but Life 360.
Correct.
All right. That's been an app in the McCabe family for a number of years, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it's in your family anyway, and probably in a lot of families, it's mainly used for the parents to keep track of their kids, right?
Correct.
And in order for Life 360 to work, you have to have your location services on, and somebody else has to have the app and is in the family, correct? Connected to you. And with regard to, just going back to the messages for a minute, do you know the difference between an iMessage and a text message?
Yes, I believe one's blue and one's green.
Okay. The screenshots that we saw of your text conversation that you say that you had with Colin Albert, you were in blue, right?
Correct.
That means that Colin Albert also had an iPhone at the time, correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to the timestamp on those messages, the conversation about I'm here, I believe gave the time 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Are you aware how easy it is to change that time?
No.
Are you aware that all you need to do is go from settings to general, and then there's a date and time that you can alter?
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
You know that when you set up your iPhone, you have to choose a time zone, correct?
Correct.
And you always choose the New York time zone because that's where Boston is, right?
Correct.
Are you aware that if you go into settings, general, and then date and time, you can change the time zone to wherever you're going?
I guess I didn't. Once I set my phone up, I have no reason to change the time.
See? And in addition to changing the time zone, you literally can choose any time that you want. You could make 1:45 a.m., 12:10 a.m. in about 3 seconds. Did you know that?
Do you know that? Do you know that?
No.
But if I'm not accusing you of this now, but if you had changed the time on that from a screenshot, we'd have no way of knowing, correct?
I guess.
Because what a screenshot ultimately becomes is like a photo, correct?
Correct.
It's not like you can edit it, right? I mean, the most that you can do is what we saw on the other photo that was displayed, which is kind of crossing out with a magic marker somebody's face or a time, right? That would be how you'd have to alter it, right?
Correct.
Now, I had asked you if prior to getting rid of your old phone and getting the new one, if law enforcement ever asked you to, go through the phone themselves, and you had said no, right?
Yes, they did not do that.
And they never asked to do an extraction on the old phone, correct?
No.
What about the new phone that you now have that you got in December? Have the state police ever asked to do, have they ever asked to look through that phone?
They look, no, I don't think so.
You provided the screenshot that was shown to the jury today on August 25th when you talked to the state police in this case, right, of 2023?
Correct.
And when you provided them that screenshot, did they say, hey, by the way, can I look at your phone to see if it's on there?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Did they say that to you?
I don't remember.
But in any case, you never physically showed them your phone, right?
No.
You don't recall clicking on that text message app, the green app with the kind of white speech bubble. You didn't click on that and then click on the Colin Albert conversation and say, here it is, did you?
No.
And in addition to not asking you to see your new phone, they also did not ask you to do an extraction of your new phone, correct?
Correct.
And at some point in time, you realized that you'd have to be a witness in this case and have the unfortunate incident of having to talk to me, right?
Objection.
I'm going to see Counsel at sidebar for just a minute on this.
Okay. Fast forward.
Okay, and just to wrap this up, to this day, no extraction has been done on your phone, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you had that Zoom interview on August 25th, you told the trooper that you drove Colin straight to his house after you picked him up on January 29th, and then you went straight home, correct?
Yes, I believe.
And you have previously testified back in August of 2023 that you believe you dropped Colin Albert off at his home at around 12:15, 12:20 or so?
Correct.
And when you left, by the way, you're very familiar with 34 Fairview, right?
Correct.
That's family, correct?
Correct.
Been over there many, many, many times, correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar with the neighborhood in terms of the streets that are around there, right?
Correct.
And you've lived in Canton your whole life?
Yes. Yeah.
When you were a baby, you were in Stoughton?
Yes.
Basically, you're a Canton girl, right?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury the route that you took home from 34 Fairview, or actually strike that, the route that you took to Colin Albert's house when you left 34 Fairview on January 29th?
I don't remember specifically, but I would believe I drove up Fairview, then sorry, I don't know the streets.
If I suggested to you that the street closest to 34 Fairview was Cedar Crest and the one on the other side is Chapman, does that refresh your memory?
Yeah, so Chapman.
Okay, so
I
you would
believe.
have gone up and gone to Chapman and taken a right or a left?
Really bad with directions. When I got there, I went to the center of town, his house. I don't know specifically which way. I'm trying to think of it. I can't picture it.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Washington Street in Canton?
Yes.
Would you have wound up on Washington Street?
Yes.
All right. And you're aware that the Canton Library is on the corner of Washington and Sherman Street? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you would have passed by the library?
Yes.
All right. Now, with regard to whether you went straight home, did you, by the way, when you went home, did you stay there?
Yes, I believe so.
For in the rest of the night?
Yes.
Okay, and what time do you say that you arrived at home?
I'm not sure. Before around 12:30ish.
Okay. With regard to Life 360, would you agree with me that if you go on that app and you're trying to figure out where somebody in your family is, there's and let's say you want to know if somebody's home. There's like a circle that surrounds your home, correct?
Yes,
So once you enter that circle, you know that Life 360 gives an alert that said you arrived at home. Even though you're physically not walking in the door, you're within that circle, and that's the home circle, right?
yes,
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:04 and 53 seconds, you arrived within that home circle, correct?
correct.
And then at 12:06 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left that home circle, correct?
Correct.
And then on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds, you completed a 7-mile drive where your top speed was 42 miles an hour. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds as well. And what that probably means, reading between the lines, is that you entered that home circle, but then you didn't go home. You went through the home circle and completed a 7-mile drive somewhere, right?
I guess I thought I went home. I'm
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
not. I believe I went home. I
Okay.
was completing my drive at my house.
All right, but at 12:26 a.m. on January 29th, you left home again, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Did you leave home?
I don't know. I don't remember.
All right.
I don't understand.
And
I
at
don't understand sometimes his
12:26 a.m. and
objections.
12 seconds,
He's like, what could possibly be the basis of his objection?
you arrived at the Canton High School, correct?
No,
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:26 and 55 seconds, you completed a 1-mile drive where your top speed was 43 miles per hour, right?
I don't believe so.
And then at 12:26 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left Canton High School and arrived at home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 28 seconds, correct?
I do not know.
And then after arriving home again on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 29 seconds, you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 12:31 and 22 seconds. Did you not?
No,
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 1:08 and 15 seconds, right?
I don't believe so.
And ultimately, you went through the home bubble and the Canton High School bubble, and you arrived at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 in the morning and 8 seconds.
Can I see what you're referring to?
Sure. May I approach you on?
Yes.
You probably don't need these, right?
No, I'm good.
Okay, and to make it easy, I mean, you can read the whole thing, but where it says record 16 is what I just asked you about, but feel free to read the whole thing.
Thank you.
And if you would, read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
This is all very interesting. Establishing some new timestamps for her activities
Oh, I'm
at
sorry,
night.
you're right. Sorry. May I approach?
Yes.
Did that help refresh your memory on where you were that night?
No.
Do you still dispute that you went straight home and didn't leave there?
Objection.
Sustained.
And finally, I just asked you about arriving at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 and 8 seconds. You arrived at home, within that home bubble, on January 29th of 2022 at 1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds, correct?
What time did it say I arrived at high school?
1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds.
And what time did it say I arrived at high school?
The high school was 1:28 and 8 seconds.
It wouldn't have taken me 2 minutes to go from the high school to my house. I'm
Well,
confused.
with regard to the high school was also one of the bubbles, one of the areas where you could be, right, on Life 360?
No.
If I may.
Yes.
Matt Jenna Ray, thanks for the question. How would you get that evidence in? I mean, it would have to be brought in through some kind of an expert, some sort of data forensics expert who probably put that together or somehow extracted it. I mean, I'm not even completely sure how he got it if they didn't do any kind of an extraction from her phone. Maybe they got access to the Life 360 account. This is also the first time I'm hearing of this app anyway. So I'm not familiar with it at all. But yeah, it would have to be through someone with knowledge of like the actual data.
Okay. Did you say that on Life 360, the Canton High School is not one of the areas that you're tracked in?
What do you mean?
So do you remember we were talking earlier about?
Oh, like put in a location, like that was
Yeah, so there
home,
are
that was
multiple
high school.
locations, like, if your mother's looking for you, where are you?
Yes,
Well, you're at D&E Pizza, you're at high school, you're at, home, right? I mean, those could be categories.
correct,
You've agreed that home was one of the categories.
correct.
And having reviewed that, the Canton High School is also one of the categories, correct?
I believe so.
All right. And on January 29th of 2022, the last entry is that you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 1:32 in the morning and 23 seconds. And that's the end of the activity. Do you agree with me that that's when you finally stopped that night?
I don't recall.
If I may have a moment.
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you, Ron.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Thank you.
Read around.
Now, Ms. McCabe, with regard to, did you get rid of your prior iPhone or did you upgrade your iPhone?
Upgrade.
And that would have been in December of 2022, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Was it sometime around Christmas?
Yeah, probably.
And that could have been a present as far as getting a new iPhone or upgrading your iPhone?
Yes.
Now, as far as any of the information that you were shown, as far as the screenshot, did you in any way, shape, or form alter or delete any of the content within that text message from January 28th and the 29th with Colin?
No.
And with reference to changing times or time zones or anything on text messages, before Mr. Yannetti asked you any of those questions, were you aware of any of those things as things that you could do with your phone?
No.
With regard to Life 360, what, if any, knowledge do you have as far as the accuracy of sort of the timestamps that are contained within that app?
Well, I'm not sure, but on the photo he showed me, it says like turn Wi-Fi on. So that like remind Allie to turn Wi-Fi on. So that could have affected the accuracy.
What?
And that
What?
was on literally every single one of the alerts that was on that page that he showed you.
Every single one.
Now, Canton High School, do you know what street that's on?
Washington Street, I believe.
And
Yeah.
about how far a ride is it from Canton High School to your house?
7-8 minutes, 10. I'm not sure.
You were in the bubble of Canton High School at 1:28 in the morning. Could you have possibly been in the bubble of your home at 1:30 in the morning?
No.
And unless you were going 90 miles an hour in a snowstorm?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions about that time frame of August of 2023 when you were asked and you turned over sort of screenshots to troopers from the state police, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about previous times indicating that you weren't asked and it wasn't relevant, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you know why you were asked in August of 2023 versus any prior time period?
Because Colin Albert wasn't in the house, and then it was brought up here that he was.
And brought up where?
By the defense.
And around that time of August 2023?
I believe so. Yes.
And with reference to relevancy, is that what you were talking about?
Correct.
And what, if anything else, you're close friends with Colin Albert, is that correct?
Correct.
What, if anything else, has either your family or Colin Albert and his family undergone over the course of dependency of this case?
Objection.
No, the door's been opened. I'm allowing it.
Well, basically harassment.
And harassment by who?
Bloggers, people online.
And what, if anything, in relation to Colin Albert being in the house has occurred as far as the harassment that you're talking about?
Can you rephrase?
With reference to what you were talking about as far as the relevancy of Colin Albert being in the house at that time, what, if any, harassment was there in relation to that and in relation to Colin?
Well,
Objection.
No, go ahead. She can answer.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed he was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home. So people are harassing him saying he was at the house when it's not true.
I mean, I think that what she's mainly referring to is like commentary online and whatnot. But the defense is also has a right to make their defense, right? To try to put up other theories of what may have happened. So that also kind of sounds like a shot across the bow at the defense.
Speak about harassment. What specifically type of harassment are we
Constant phone calls, emails, awful messages.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Focus on this witness, not Colin Albert at this point.
As far as you and your family, what, if any, type of harassment have you received?
People showing up at our house, people emailing my school, just like a lot of harassment. Can I have a moment, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have some, thank you.
And how long a period of time has that persisted for?
Very long time.
Thank you. I have no further.
I have nothing further.
All right, Ms. McCabe, you're all set.
All right. I honestly,
Your
that-
next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. Call multiple call Colin Albert to the stand.
Colin Albert. I mean, to me, that did look like an actual, like a sincere show of emotion. Not everyone's going to agree to me that looked sincere. I think it looked like the kind of emotion where someone is really trying to contain it, and it just sort of bubbles over despite your efforts to contain it. I honestly, and then afterwards when she asked for a moment, she still had a trembling lip. She's still like, what, even when she was like, okay, I'm like ready to continue, like she still looked shaken to me. So like, I personally, I know that the folks have their opinions on this entire family and on the individuals and on this witness. To me, that does look like, and look, I mean, two things can be true at the same time, right? I'm not saying that I believe in the conspiracy claim, the framing claim. In fact, at this point, I haven't seen enough evidence to convince me of that. You know, have I, talked about some of these witnesses coming across as incredibly shady, coming from the Albert family, or this whole clan? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've pointed that out plenty of times. But two things can be true at the same time. There could be something shady that has happened over here, and there could be harassment that goes above and beyond what is deserving of whatever in fact happened. I know that when it comes to a murder case, I know that, somebody died. People get very passionate about that. But this is, a young woman who has been dealing with like crap from the internet and other places and whatnot that I would imagine is really, really difficult, regardless of what may have happened in this case. So I understand the passion on the one side. I also understand, what we just saw there as probably real sincere emotion. And I do feel for her. I do, because she doesn't seem like someone who has, I don't know, maybe she's covering for Colin too. I don't know, but I don't know. I still have some empathy for her in this whole situation, because it cannot be easy to go through. All right, let's continue on.
Step right up there. Step on me. Name, standing, and face the card.
Do you solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and during the case now and hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Colin Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
My whole life.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton with?
I live with my mother, my father, and my two brothers,
And your mother and your father, what are their names?
Julie and Chris Albert.
And your brothers, what are their names?
Chris and Dylan Albert.
And as far as within the age of you and your two brothers, where do you fall in that?
I am the middle child.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 20 years old.
And do you work? Do you go to school?
I go to school at Bridgewater State.
And what year are you in?
I am going into my junior year.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th into January 29th of 2022. Recall those days?
Yes.
Do you recall what days of the week they were?
I do not.
Do you recall whether it was a weekday, weekend?
Weekend.
And turning your attention to the evening of January 28th, do you recall where you went that night?
Yes, I do.
And just to be clear, around that time, were you in college? Were you in high school? What grade were you in?
I was a senior in high school.
Really quick, just because. Thanks so much for the super chat. Dinguses harass people. Don't be a dingus. Let the justice system sort things out. 100% agree. Could not agree more.
So end of January, you would have been about 4 months away or so from graduation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And On that evening, where did you, at some point, did you leave your home and go out?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall about what time it was that you went out?
I do not remember.
Do you recall whether it was light or dark when you went out?
It was dark.
And where did you, upon leaving your house, where did you go?
I went to one of my buddy's houses.
And that buddy, what was his,
Mike.
and where does Mike live in relation to you?
Can you rephrase that?
Does Mike live in Canton as well?
Yes, he does.
And about how far is it from your house to Mike's house?
About like 7-8 minutes.
And when you got to Mike's house, was it just you and Mike, or who, if anyone else, was there?
I do not remember who was there.
Was there more than just the two of you?
Yes.
And generally speaking, when you got to Mike's house, what is it that you did when you got there?
I do not remember.
Now, as far as how you got from your house to Mike's house, do you recall how you got there?
No, I do not remember.
Let me ask you this. Did you walk? Did you drive? Did you get a ride?
I got a ride.
Do you recall who you got a ride from?
No.
And when you, do you recall, let me ask you this, as far as that particular night that you went out, did you drink any alcoholic beverages while you were out?
Yes.
And did you drink any of those at Mike's house?
Yes.
And do you recall generally what you were drinking that night?
Bud Light.
And when you were at Mike's house on that particular evening, do you recall about how long you were there for?
A few hours.
And do you recall how much you had to drink while you were at Mike's house?
I do not remember.
And so in reference to you going out and going over Mike's house and having some beers over there, is that why you didn't drive?
Yes.
So you got a ride from someone over to Mike's house, you spent some hours there, and then do you recall where you went from there?
I went to my uncle's house.
And fair to say you have a relatively large extended family within Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when you say you went to your uncle's house, which uncle's house did you go to?
My Uncle Brian.
And that would be same last name as yourself, so Brian Albert.
Yes.
And how is he your uncle? Sort of how is he related to
He is my father's brother.
you? And why did you go to your uncle's house that night?
It was my cousin Brian's birthday, so I went over to celebrate for a little bit with him.
And so that would be Brian Albert Jr., is that right?
Sir.
And do you know how old your cousin Brian Albert Jr. was turning on that night?
I do not know.
Do you recall how you got from Mike's house to your uncle's house?
I believe McCabe.
And do you know the address as far as your uncle's house?
34 Fairview Road.
Is that somewhere, your family's house, is that somewhere that you had been before?
Yes.
And so your memory is that McCabe gave you a ride from Mike's house to the house on Fairview?
From what I remember, yes.
Now, McCabe, as far as who is that to you? Or what, if any, kind of relationship you have with McCabe?
It is my cousin's cousin. So not technically my cousin, but we're close and like we do family events and stuff like that together.
And you and Miss McCabe, are you in the same grade?
Yes.
And how long have you known each
My whole entire life.
other? So not blood related, but someone that you see at family events.
Yes.
And someone that was in the same grade and went to the same school as you.
Correct.
And that school, which school did you go to at that time?
Canton High School.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived at the house on Fairview?
Between 10:30 and 11 at night.
And did you have at that time any kind of curfew or time that you had to be home from your parents?
Usually around like right around before midnight.
And so was it like a hard fast, like 12 o'clock, if you're not here, you're grounded, or was it sort of around that time?
Just around midnight.
And so after, when you arrive there, you go into the house, is that right?
Yes.
And the house at 34 Fairview has a couple of different ways to get in the house in the front, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you recall which way that you went in that evening?
The side door near the garage.
And when you come into the house, where did you go within the house? What room did you go into?
The living room,
And then from the living room, where else did you go within?
like the kitchen area.
And within the kitchen area of the house, who, if anyone else, was present in the kitchen?
From what I remember, my cousin Brian, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson, and Catherine Duty, from what I remember that night.
Is it possible there were other people there that you just don't recall?
Yes.
And where were they situated, sort of in the kitchen dining room area?
Like sitting around the kitchen table, I would say.
Now, after you arrived there, well, when you arrived there, what is it that they were doing when you walked in?
Just listening to music and having a couple of drinks.
Really, really quick. LK Right Down, thanks so much for the super chat. Harassment is never okay. Our actions only reflect us. And if you harass, you only show others who you are. There's no good reason to hurt others. Thank you so much. I definitely agree with that. Thank you, LK Right Down, for that wonderful reminder.
And you come in, you greet people, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the other people that you talked about, as far as beyond your cousin Brian Albert Jr., did you know those other people?
I knew of them. I wasn't friends with them or anything.
Fair to say they were older than you were, is that correct?
Correct.
So like Miss Levinson would have been older than you by at least a few years at that point.
Yes.
And the same with reference to, I believe you said Miss Fabiano and Miss Duty, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, when you arrive at the house, did you have any other drinks once you got there?
Yes.
And do you recall what, if anything, you drank once you got
Bud Light.
there? So same as you were having before?
Correct.
You know how many that you had while you were at 34 Fairview?
I do not remember.
And over the course of the evening, whether it was at Mike's house or in between, or when you got to 34 Fairview, did you feel yourself as far as like overly intoxicated or drunk or anything like that?
No.
And as far as the other people that you observed at the house that night, does anybody stick out to you as being overly intoxicated or fall down drunk or anything like that?
No.
Now, with reference to when you came into the house, you mentioned there was music playing. How would you describe sort of the general mood within the house?
It was happy. It was, yeah.
Now, as far as that area where you first observed the people around the table in the kitchen dining room area when you came in, did you ever see anybody else go anywhere else in the house?
Not that I remember.
Did you yourself go anywhere else in the house?
No.
At any point in time in the evening while you were there, did you go upstairs or downstairs in the basement or out in the backyard or anywhere else besides the kitchen dining room area?
No.
Beyond maybe the restroom at some point?
Yeah. Other than that, no.
And about how long were you at your uncle's house that night to celebrate your cousin's birthday?
Probably around like an hour and a half.
And so about what time would it have been that you left?
12:10.
And with respect to your leaving the house, who, if anyone, did you contact to facilitate?
Rephrase.
Let me ask it in a much easier, better way. Okay. As far as your plans were concerned, as far as leaving the house, who, if anyone, did you reach out to get a ride from the house?
My friend Allie McCabe.
And how did you reach out to her?
I texted her.
And do you recall whether or not you had any sort of other communication? Well, let me step back and ask it this way. At that point in time, in January of 2022, you had Ms. McCabe's information saved as a contact in your phone, is that correct?
Correct.
And on prior occasions, had you had a chance to, call that number from your cell phone that you had programmed in as Allie McCabe?
Correct.
And when you called that number, who, if anyone, answered the phone?
Allie.
Now, with respect to text communications, had you had text communications with that contact in your phone as Allie McCabe prior to that date of January 28th?
Yes.
And when you had those conversations, did you then also have subsequent sort of in-person conversations with Allie McCabe as well?
Yes.
And during those in-person conversations, was there any reference or anything talked about content that had been previously sent and communicated via text?
No.
Let me ask it in a better way. So You would have text communications with the person you put in as a contact as Ally McCabe, correct?
Yes.
And then subsequent to having those text communications, you would then speak to her either in person or over the phone, correct?
Objection.
The objection is sustained. Watch the form of your questions.
Following those text communications with the person that you had input in your phone, what, if any, verbal conversations would you have in reference to the content of the text communication?
I'm not sure what you're asking. But
No one is sure what he's
Did
asking.
you talk to her in person about something you had talked to her about in text?
no.
Now, with reference on that specific date of January 28th, was text communications the only means by which you communicated with Ally McCabe?
From what I remember, yeah.
And were there other means by which you would typically communicate with her?
If she wasn't answering a text, I'd give her a call. Yeah.
And were there apps or anything like that on your phone that you would communicate with her as well?
Snapchat sometimes.
Now, with respect to Snapchat and your family, specifically your cousins, what, if any, sort of group Snapchat chains were there with respect to your family?
Yes.
And specifically, who were those sort of group Snapchat chains? Who was included within it?
I have a snap.
His niece and his nephew that he adopted, correct?
Correct.
And where were they in relation to you as far as age is concerned?
A lot younger. I don't know the exact age difference, but
So if you were in high school, they would have been some grade far below.
yes.
Now, as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, your neighbor, about how often would it be that you would see him?
Not often. I drive by every now and then. He'd be outside and I would wave. He'd wave back. That was pretty much it.
And during the time that you lived on Meadows Ave, or a couple months subsequent to that, is there ever any animosity or any sort of arguments or anything that you would ever had with Mr. O'Keefe?
Never.
And how would you describe Mr. O'Keefe from your perspective, as far as how would you describe him as a person?
A nice guy, a good guy.
Now, with respect to, if I could bring you back to Fairview Road on January 28th and 29th of 2022. Obviously, you were familiar with Mr. O'Keefe at that point.
Yes.
And at any point in time that you were in that home, did you see Mr. O'Keefe inside the home?
No.
At any point in time that you were outside of the home, going in, coming out, at any point in time did you see Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
At any point in time on the evening of January 28th into January 29th, 2022, did you see Mr. O'Keefe anywhere?
No.
And at that time, at end of January 2022, were you aware of, or did you know anybody by the name of Karen?
Yes.
And how did you know?
I knew that she dated Mr. O'Keefe.
And had you had any sort of prior interactions with Miss Reed prior to January 28th?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you know what she looked like?
Not really.
As far as any interactions, would that be just sort of driving by the house?
Yeah. Maybe drive by, wave. That was about it.
I may have one moment. John.
Yes.
Now, as far as that sort of reaching out to Ms. McCabe on that particular evening, was that something that you had done before?
Yeah.
is that something that sort of you and your friend group did together, as far as if somebody was out and driving around and somebody else was maybe drinking somewhere, they could contact them for a ride?
Yes, correct.
That was as opposed to somebody drinking and then getting behind the wheel and driving, correct?
Exactly.
Now, sir, at some point in July of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with any troopers from the state police in regard to that evening of January 28th, 29th?
Say the date again.
Some point in July of 2023, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
No.
At some point subsequent to that date of January 28th, 29th, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
Yes.
And you were asked questions and you answered them, is that correct?
Correct.
And following that conversation or interview that you had with troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide them with reference to your phone?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry.
At some point, did you provide them with a screenshot of a text communication between yourself and Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
And was that something that you took a screenshot on your own phone and then were able to then provide it to them?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Showing you the document, just ask you to look at it and then look up when you're finished. And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
My text messages between Allie that night.
And what's contained on that, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you recall as far as the text messages, or what was on your phone as far as what you took a screenshot of the text messages between you and Allie McCabe that night?
Yes, sir.
I approach again, Your Honor? Yes. I'm to seek to introduce in a minute.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, one moment.
Sure.
No objection. Thank
All
you.
right. And jurors, remember the instruction I gave you about the text messages. Thank you. Okay.
Exhibit 84.
Your Honor, may I approach just to return to the
Yes.
witness? Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish this for the jury?
Okay.
Sir, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as Exhibit 84?
Yes.
And the contact that's listed at the top states out, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that how you had Ms. McCabe programmed into your phone?
Correct.
And from this, there's two sets of communications, one contained in blue bubbles and one contained in non-blue bubbles, correct?
Yes.
If you know the blue bubbles, is that you or is that Ms. McCabe or who's?
That's me.
So the other side would be Ms. McCabe, is that correct?
Correct.
There's also times that are stamped or associated with these text bubbles and with the text communications from Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
And if I could direct your attention, and maybe easier if you're looking at the paper in front of you, but just sort of starting from the top, January 28, 2022, if you could read for the jury what the content is, what the time is, and indicate who is communicating.
At 11:54, I texted Allie and said, "You can get me now, period." At 11:54, I texted her again and said, "If easier." At 11:55, Allie texted me back and said, "Okay, I am driving people home now." At 11:55, I said, "Word." And then at 11:55, I said, "Get me after." At 11:55, Allie wrote back, "KK." And then at 12:10, a.m. Allie wrote here. And at 12:10 a.m., I wrote back, okay.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that. And Your Honor, may I approach just to retrieve the exhibit?
Yes.
Now, sir, with respect to that last communication that you sent as far as okay, how long after that message was sent did you then go out to the car where Allie was?
Right after, I'd say around 30 seconds.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
Sir, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibits 82 and 83. Again, I just asked you to take a look at those and look up for you. And do you recognize those, sir?
Yep.
And what do you recognize those?
Say that again.
What is in those photos?
A picture of me and my aunt and a picture of me by myself.
And do you recall sort of when those photographs were taken?
Yes, February 11th.
And why is it that you recall that, well, let me ask you this. As far as February 11th was concerned, where were you that day?
I was at my uncle's house.
And why were you at your uncle's house on that?
My cousin was coming home for leave from the Marine Corps, so we had a little gathering for him.
And just to be clear, when you say your uncle, you're talking about your Uncle Brian Albert again?
Correct.
Your cousin that was coming home from the Marines, what's his name?
Jack Albert.
And so on that evening, you were over that house, is that correct?
Correct.
And the first picture in exhibit, I believe it's 82, is that correct? You and your aunt Nicole?
Correct.
And what's contained on there, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of sort of what you looked like as far as your arms, your hands, your face, all of those things on that date of February 11th?
Correct.
And the second photograph is again you by yourself, is that correct?
Correct.
And from that photograph, again, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
And from the second photograph in, if you know, where was that taken within the home of your uncle?
In the library at 34 Fairview.
And again, that library or any of the other rooms within the house beyond the kitchen, the dining room, or possibly the restroom, did you go into any other areas of the house on that night of January 28th into January 29th?
No.
I approach this to retrieve your
Yes.
Yep.
One moment, John.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Albert, just one last question. When it came to your arrival at 34 Fairview Road on the evening of, or the early morning of January 29th, when you were leaving, beyond your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, did you see anybody else older than yourself or anybody else related to that group come into the house that evening?
No.
Thanks. I have nothing further.
Mr. Jackson, do you want to begin or wait until the morning?
You know, it probably makes more sense to wait till tomorrow morning.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Mr. Albert, I'm going to wait until the jurors leave, and then you can follow them.
Okay.
All right, jurors, I do have to caution you, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Do not do any independent
please.
research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Tomorrow's a half day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Half day tomorrow.
All right.
All right. And we've got some questions here.
Please be seated. Court's back in session.
All right. Do you need me for anything? Any evidentiary issues, any exhibits that we need to go through to avoid sidebar time tomorrow?
Not for the Commonwealth, Your Honor, no.
Not on behalf of.
Okay.
Through to avoid sidebar time tomorrow?
I don't know why it's playing myself now. That's weird. That was very weird. Okay. So I guess that's the end of it. So tomorrow we've got a half day of testimony again. Let's get some questions here before we head out for the day. Steve, what is the age that a parent can be present for a child's interview? I actually don't know the answer to that question. It's a good one, though. There are some contexts in which age doesn't matter, though. For example, if there's an allegation of child abuse or, various forms of that, where you don't want to have the parent in the room with the child. But other than that, I don't know the answer to that. Diane Jaclo, question. So far, 36 witnesses for the state are interviewed by Lally alone. Maybe that's the reason he is all over the place. The women in the state table are district attorneys or paralegals. So he does have co-counsel, Laura McLaughlin, who we've heard a couple objections from her, but we haven't seen anything else from her so far. She's his co-counsel. So, he does have another attorney there. Jamie Bruce, question. The sidebars where the defendant is being a bit cheeky, or the defense is being a bit cheeky or self-deprecating or whatever. Is she just saying, don't do that? Could be. She could be reprimanding them, or there could be something else. They could be, arguing over some sort of like limitation on scope that they need to be mindful of, or something like that. Jerry Roth, can people get in trouble for admitting to underage drinking or the like during a trial? I suppose he's not going to, though. Eto, Legalbytes, have you ever seen a lawyer work up a witness so much that they get angry and make a mistake and blurt out a bombshell, like Few Good Men style? I have not seen that. But I don't know. I suppose it's probably happened in real life, but I've never seen that. Let's see here. And Go Georgia, question. Is the autopsy result being kept secret until when? I don't know. I don't know if the medical examiner's report has been made public. I know that there's been references to it. So there are some pieces of it, at least, that people have gotten access to. I don't know about the whole report itself. I haven't looked at those particular documents in the case. Marion Patera, question. Co-counsel Lara McLaughlin, is she related to Kate McLaughlin, the firefighter? Isn't it a bit conflicting? I think that's just a coincidence. I don't know. Maybe they're related. I'm not sure. But I doubt it. Let's see here. Anything else here? I think that's all the questions. Okay. I think that we are going to be heading out. Oh, and also, Sandy, thank you so much. Please take a moment to hit like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Yes. Thank you so much for that reminder. If you guys have not already done so, please do like the video. It does help for more people to discover these live streams and these recaps and all that kind of stuff. Really does help. And I just ended the poll. 633 votes. Halfway through day 12, where are you leaning regarding KR's guilt for murder? 74% said not guilty. 19% said need more info. 6% said guilty. Interesting. Alrighty, that is about it for me. The day 11 recap is about to come out, so keep an eye out for that. I know it's super late. We're already done with day 12, but we're trying to get these out faster, and we're working through some kinks behind the scenes to get that done. Now, let's see. Other than that, tomorrow I've got a half day, and I'll be getting right on to working on the day 12 recap as well. So also keep an eye out for that one. Also, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, whether on replay or live. Thank you to everybody who bought memberships and super chats and all that kind of stuff. And thank you to the mods, as always, for helping to keep this community, agreeing, disagreeing, but doing so in a way that's productive. All right. See you guys.